All right. How's it going, my magnificent sons of bitches? And I just wanted to come back and talk about the Brett Favre supposed welfares. It's not really a Brett Favre scandal. They just used Brett Favre and attached Brett Favre's name to it because nobody reads their trash tabloids. So they need some sort of controversy and they need somebody to attach to that controversy that could ultimately bring viewership to their, fledgling, dying, monotonous journalist sites like ESPN and whatnot. It's just something to go ahead and, put out there to the masses to see if, they can get any kind of an audience back because ultimately the mainstream media, sports media, ESPN, does anybody even watch these networks anymore? The mainstream, like your ESPNs and stuff like that, largely a lot of people see them as mainly a joke now. So their base has been going down for years. Like I'm really shocked and surprised that ESPN they are probably barely hanging on. So of course they have to find a scandal. They have to first off their research is insufficient. Their logic, these people that are in journalists today probably have no business being in journalism, to be honest with you. They should be like serving you at Taco Bell or like I said, like to Nina Turner, you would be better served working at a 7-Eleven, going ahead and ringing me up. That would be about the extent of your expertise on anything economical. However, with that being said, when you look at whenever you look at the Brett Favre thing, they're claiming that Brett Favre stole welfare money. And that's normally the headlines. First off, the headlines are dumbed down to the lowest common denominator. And if you're reading these articles and you're just going off the headlines and you're reacting off the headlines, well, then, yeah, you're going to look like some sort of tool, basically. Sitting there doing a reaction video, Brett Favre stole money from welfare people. And you look ignorant because you have no idea the whole context. You'd have to read the article instead of just reading the headline and think that you know something about it. But I see reactions and I see people on Twitter just dumb reactions is what it is. It's really just not even taking the time to actually look into the situation. If you actually read the article, then at most, and I don't think that, there's going to be any kind of real charges that you could put against him, but at most, Phil Bryant, the governor of Mississippi, would be ultimately responsible because he is the one that I guess, allotted said funds to certain institutions, but he did, it didn't go into kickbacks. And this is funny because a lot of the people that are complaining the most about it, and it's welfare money and it was meant to go to welfare. First off, how productive is that dollar really going to be going into a welfare pot, anyways? Just look at it from a pragmatic point of view. Some of these people are on generational welfare. And I'm pretty sure in Mississippi, that's actually kind of a common theme with a lot of people that are, in these states, is like a lot of them are on generational welfare. And I'm just being honest. You know what I'm saying? So, how productive is that dollar going to be just to go to subsidies to incentivize people for not working versus it going to like an institution, which they would have to, have people run the security work, run security and whatnot. That would be, generating revenue. It would bring in interest. More people could go to the games and stuff like that. Mississippi's football, I think that they donated some of it to like a football stadium, some of it to a volleyball stadium and whatnot. And so, Brett Favre, basically what he did was talked the governor to going ahead and allotting some of this into a school in Mississippi. I forget which one it is, but it was one that his daughter attended. So this is what they did. And like I said, it creates more jobs, produces more economy. People are working for that money, surrounding those institutions and whatnot. Regardless of what I think about our education system, it's going to generate some sort of money. It's going to, generate attendance. So it's all going back into the economy. It's not being stolen. It's not being squandered. You could say that it may be going to private contractors, and some of that money may be coming in from kickbacks, but it's not nearly like what you have going on in the Ukraine or anything, I could tell you right now, instead of sending $630 million to Ukraine, why don't we send them 87,000 IRS agents? But these people won't sit there. They won't talk about that. See, this is total hypocrisy from the left, and this is why you can't take anything that they say seriously. Whenever I see a reaction video on a lot of these videos now from the YouTubers, which I'm just going to call them YouTubers, I'm not even going to call them YouTubers. You know, the YouTuber, uh, moniker is pretty much for those who have contributed whenever it was YouTube. Before the censorship, before you had to get people shadow banned, before you had to get, terminate people's channels, before you had to put these little filters on their videos and stuff saying, oh, well, you're missing context. With our peer-reviewed study says something different than you say, Prodigal Champ. Yeah, before that, those guys that, contributed to this site and made it what it is, to where there was even an invested interest for the mainstream media to push all of us out and onto Rumble or onto BitChute or onto any of these other sites. However, with that being said, watching these reactionaries now, the YouTubers, as I said, and it doesn't matter if it's in the, wrestling communities or if it's in the sports communities or if it's in the great debates, a lot of them are just strictly reactionary. They have no fucking clue what they're talking about. And they don't put any effort or any research saying, oh, okay, well, here's both sides of the story. Here's where I can agree with that, but ultimately this is wrong. They don't sit there and look up any of the policies. They just sit there and say, oh, well, Putin is bad and we need to help Ukraine and everybody's dying in Ukraine because, I don't know, Larry Diamond makes a freaking mockumentary about Ukraine or something, just like you did a Whisper to Aurora. And people are just strictly on the left. They're just strictly reactionary. And since they're pushing mostly independents off of YouTube and trying to bring in a more subjective type of, that they could influence content creator here on YouTube, this is what you get. You get a dumbed down version of the stories. And this is no different with the Brett Favre story. I knew it was ridiculous whenever they were trying to sit there and say that. Whenever I saw Brett Favre stealing welfare money, I already knew that it was going to be something stupid. There's no reason for me to react to something this dumb, because we know that Brett Favre isn't stealing welfare money. We know that the journalist can't write a coherent article. They can't take a coherent position. They don't have the confidence. They don't have the trust. And I know that DC is worried about this. The entertainers in Hollywood don't have the influence. Basically, it's because they're all, pretty much virtue signaling on placebos and whatnot. They don't understand that a lot of us, whenever they sit there and they point at everybody and call them bigoted, racist, homophobe, xenophobe, all these other phobes and stuff like that, that we were the originators of, at the, desegregation. We were at the top, 1988 was whenever society really fully desegregated. And, you had all ethnicities, races, and going to school together, and ultimately, it didn't turn out into the calamity that they thought it would. So they go ahead and, of course, the left embraces the placebos that are civil rights. They market off of it. It's a big grift, is what it is. And like I said, the people that are, get involved in these grifts are, react to these grifts. They just look like they're totally, they just look totally inept because they have no idea. They're just jumping onto a cause because they say, I support that cause. But you don't know exactly the whole totalitarian, what that position is on the left. It's an ever-moving goalpost. So, they need racism. They need racism more than anybody on the right. It damn sure doesn't benefit anybody else except for the left at this point in time. Whenever you're sitting there claiming about these quote unquote women's rights, abortion's rights or women's rights, and a woman should have a right to choose, but you didn't believe that whenever it comes to the VAXX, right? You didn't believe that. You know how many women got laid off because of in the medical field because they refused to take the VAXX. You didn't care about women's right to choose then, so you look like a hypocrite. When you superficially jump on board with these causes because you didn't care enough whenever people lost their jobs, you didn't care. This wasn't a big issue. The only reason you're jumping onto it is because you heard somebody, one of your favorite entertainers said something that is probably losing a lot of, and that meant, it's becoming a more and more marginalized base that even reacts to this. And it's cringy, to be honest with you. A majority of the population, that's why there's always a market for like the Trump stuff or the FJB or the Let's Go Brandon or the Ultra MAGA. What was it? Ultra MAGA? No, it was Dark MAGA because hell, I jumped on that one to troll. But it was Dark MAGA, and then it was Ultra MAGA, and then it was Nuclear MAGA. And then they try to do something reverse, like a Hegelian thing, but there's no Hegelian, to it. There's no Hegelian, ultimately where we're at right now, as far as, everybody that's in the center, which everybody considers extremely right. This is the position right here. This is the populist position. I'm probably not going to, but I can tell you right now, Trump is going to, win in a freaking landslide in 2024. The Republicans are going to absolutely kill the Democrats. What are you going to do? Sell us a more bill of goods? Are you going to freaking stop the election? Is there going to be another water pipe break at a freaking election place? And, the Democrats that are getting spanked are all of a sudden going to go ahead and you know, magically be winning again? Is that what you're planning to do? It's going to be fucking interesting. It really is. Whenever you're sending millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to the Ukraine, but you can't spare the same for Florida. And we all know what it is anyways. It's all money laundering. And like I said, the left tend to sit there and propagate their own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we want you. Yeah, that's greed. Is all it is. It's all based on greed. You could sit there and call the Republicans, which the Republicans are not even capitalists. But that's the first thing that they always want to sit there and blame is the capitalists, especially the freaking commies, because they want to go into communism. They already know that this is a fascist economy. You've been living in a fascist economy. In fact, the damn communists will advocate for fascism before they'll ever advocate for any kind of capitalism because they want control. But ultimately, let's be real. If you're on this commie bandwagon and you're not a part of the inner commie circle, of people that make decisions, well, then they're not going to really have any use for you. So you're not going to benefit from it. But it's okay. You can go over there. You've got your master's degree in some sort of liberal arts study where you can claim you have a PhD in some weird ass. I can read. I can read astrology signs, so I'm a doctor. I have a high IQ and whatnot, and do all this lame ass shit that you do on Twitter. But really, at the end of the day, even if you did get your commie utopia, you're going to be working in a sweatshop more than likely. At least I could probably get a military position or a higher position in life, than what a lot of you, like a lot of the people, especially the ones in media and the ones that run in politics and stuff. Yeah, what are you going to do? What would you be qualified to do? Just stop and think about it. What would you be qualified to do other than getting on and ranting? You're not on community. Look at how organized you people are. You're not that organized. You're not going to be putting any kind of real leadership. You don't have that influence anymore. You don't, you're not that inspiring. You don't, I mean, just really at the end of the day, especially like the people in Hollywood and the people in media, you don't have a lot of strong suits at the end of the day to be able to thrive in any kind of real communist regime. So even if the communists do end up taking over this country, it really wouldn't matter. I mean, who needs anybody to write fake articles anymore? Because it's just going to be the only thing that's going to be out there is communist improved propaganda anyway. So they don't really need you shills anymore. And so, it's really, it's just I guess they're living for the moment. Oh, it's me right now. I'm getting all this money right now. But whenever that money isn't going to buy you out of, when they take over or anything. But I just think it's funny that they'll run this random Brett Favre story into the ground because they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. They've lost confidence. You take a look at the whole Buffalo Sack and Save or Safeway Kroger shooter, whatever the hell he was. Nobody jumped on board with these psyops anymore. They're all freaking, they happen so much that it looks generic. And it's always the AR. It's always the AR. Do you know what I'm saying? You look at the Uvalde stuff, and it's always an AR, and it's always the same thing. Oh, it's this oh, and they always have these weird ass connections and stuff. People are starting to understand this, and they're starting to invest less and less in this. I don't even. I might have done a video on Uvalde at the time. And about 2 or 3 days later, used to whenever I hear a shooting happen, I would immediately go and look at it and do a video, seeing all the plot holes in the, you know, provincial storyline and narratives that they would set up, and ultimately I would do a video immediately. But now it's like, even what's the point? I don't hear anybody talking about it. I don't hear anybody sitting there talking about, oh, Brett Favre at work, or, discussing these topics anymore in the media. Hell, nobody's even talking about the Ukraine anymore. We're talking about our own special interest, or we're talking about the job, one of the two, you know. But that's it. You know what I'm saying? Check what we think about this whole thing, but I can guarantee you ain't nobody talking about leftist ideologues bullshit that they're fucking spewing. This is why nothing on that trends on Twitter actually gets any. What was that bro movie or whatever it was, bro love or whatever the hell it was? They thought it was going to bring in all this money. They did a cheap movie, and it was a cheap movie. I'm gonna say that it was a cheap movie. It didn't. It looked like it was just a storyline and stuff like that. They thought it was gonna bring in all this revenue, but it absolutely didn't. It actually absolutely flopped at the box office. Very little advertising and marketing outside of Twitter for that one. And guess what? It shows that anything. It's like She-Hulk. That there's no audience there. It's just like the Little Mermaid. You want to claim everybody's being racist. I mean, if you're gonna go ahead and race swap a character, which okay, I mean, at least make it something where if you're gonna race swap that character, that race may be able to particularly identify with. I mean, nothing personal, but if you're gonna make the Little Mermaid, or you're gonna make a princess from a you know different ethnicity and change it, well then make sure that that race could probably potentially identify with that character. And I think that the weakest character to race swap was the Little Mermaid. Ultimately, Jasmine from Aladdin would have been my first choice. Maybe Beauty and the Beast, and you could have probably done a live action movie with that one. You know what I'm saying? And so, and told a really good story with the Beauty and the Beast one. So I mean, but no, you took the Little Mermaid. It shows you that these people that are working in these positions are probably not qualified for their jobs. And the sad thing is, you want us to pay for your student loans that you took out for those $80,000 college degrees. Makes absolutely no sense. But Brett Favre is to blame, because Brett Favre decided that he was going to go ahead and talk to his buddy that was in office in Mississippi to go ahead and donate a portion of these funds to his daughter's college, to his daughter's school and whatnot, and that they were going to go ahead and build a new gymnasium, and that they were going to go ahead and build a new stadium for whatnot, which would create revenues, go to tax-paying citizens, which would put it right back into the Mississippi economy. So, I mean, it's not really wasting anything. It's all circular. So whenever they're sitting there, I mean, you look at New York and how dilapidated they are. You look at California. These are the last people that should have any kind of opinion on anybody else with what anybody else is doing with their money. Whenever you can't even put out wildfires, whenever you have them yearly and you can't contain your wildfires, you just burn, 3/4 of your state burns for like 3 months on end before you can even reduce the fire. These states like New York, who their subways are having a lot of issues right now. They're kind of dilapidated. you know Drug addictions in California, STD outbreaks in California, You don't get to tell Texas how to spend their money. You don't get to tell Mississippi how to spend their money. You don't get to tell Tennessee how to spend their money until you fix your problem. Then I don't want to hear anything about it at all. I don't care anything for your politics. We've seen what your, politics ultimately, add up to with the inflation that we have right now, because it's, your Nancy Pelosi was the one that was Speaker of the House. She's the one that has managed to go ahead and put the United States in the same situation that California's in. So ultimately, yeah, you don't get to tell every, other state and other people in other states how they should spend their money. So if Mississippi wants to go ahead and donate that money to an institution and, donate it for the facilities there and generate more revenue that way with this money, well, then they should be allowed to do that. And the last people that should have an opinion is anybody in journalism right now. So yeah, I figured I would go ahead and do a video on this, at least give some sort of pragmatic view on the situation and why none of us care. Like, they get so upset. Well, Colin Kaepernick took a knee and y'all got all offended. Yeah, because we're tired of you virtue signaling. There's like people who won't watch the NFL that I know. They'll never watch the NFL again because of your ridiculous, over the top antics that you like to incorporate to anything. And you're lecturing everybody who doesn't have the problem. You're pointing your finger at everybody who's not racist, and you're not looking at yourself. It's just ridiculous. The stuff that, the media is absolutely garbage. And it's ultimately, the party, the platform, everything along with it, your currently your social media sites, they're collapsing as well because you suspend everybody, ban everybody. Nobody wants to post anymore on these platforms or contribute to them like they used to. So there's less people on here. There's less interest in people getting on here. So this is another platform. Hollywood is dying. Your Silicon Valley is dying slowly but surely because nobody wants to watch it. You're making it hard to watch sports because you like to put in these ridiculous stunts, these ridiculous stories and stuff that you try to incorporate and make it look as fake as you can. So I meant, the quality. This is the quality that you get from socialists. This is what progressive policies give you. They give you a fake, synthetic, low quality society, and it really doesn't contribute any kind of real prosperity. You're not gonna nobody. Everybody is not going to ever be equally rich, but I can guarantee you, if you go ahead and put these, everybody can be equally poor. Everybody can be equally poor. And you're not going to make everybody equally rich. Trying to raise the minimum wage up to $22, $25 an hour, you're not going to make everybody equally rich. But eventually, you'll make everybody equally poor. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. I just figured I would go ahead and do a video on it. I see so many of these cringy reactions. This is going on 3 different platforms: my Twitter, my YouTube, and my Facebook. But since most of these platforms have me shadow banned to some degree or another, I know Facebook has me shadow banned for sure. They've sent me many notifications saying your stuff is going to come up lower in feeds for 90 days because you posted something we didn't like. Well, get your own platform. Well, Elon is buying Twitter. That's going to happen. So it's going to be interesting whenever these platforms start to become more conservative. I don't want to hear you fucking leftist idiots that have been sitting there pointing the fingers at everybody, calling them racist, bigoted, and homophobe. I damn sure don't want to hear y'all complaining. I don't want to hear one word out of the leftist. Oh, well, my stuff is being censored right now because I said we should go ahead and target white supremacy and all these white KKK members and Antifa. No, I'm not going to hear any of your arguments anymore. We've already heard them. All right, you're getting your chance to prove your leadership skills, and ultimately, I think for the most part, I speak for most independents. Nobody's impressed. You might have about 20 million Democrats that will show up and vote realistically. But outside of that, that's all you've got. That's the only thing that you have to hang your hat on. And most of those people are, on state pensions, and that's the only reason why they support the party. Otherwise, I can't realistically see why any of these people would even support the party, why they would even have that many. It would be much, much lower. So, yeah, they don't talk about the money embezzling going on with the Ukraine, but they'll damn sure go ahead and try to make a story about Brett Favre. They get you to go ahead and look left while they're stealing your money on the right. So yeah, you damn hypocrites. I don't want to hear shit from you at all. I don't want to hear nothing out of you, unless it's an I'm sorry. That's about it. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I didn't want to make a long one. I just figured I'd go ahead, saw a video reaction. I would go ahead and do a video on it and explain it. And I trust me, I'm not a Brett Favre fan. I'm a freaking Cowboys fan. Everybody knows that. As a Cowboys fan, we hate the freaking Packers. So for me to defend a Green Bay Packer, especially one that kind of killed our run in the 90s, it says a lot. But there's no way. And it's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. It doesn't matter. I'm not a Texans fan. But I'm not going to go ahead and jump on board with the media propaganda on that case either, with the whole sexual assault, because everybody should reasonably understand that if Deshaun Watson wanted to have sex with one of these girls, he had the money to go ahead and do that. And these girls are not going to turn him down. So I mean, it's the same thing with any of the other stuff that goes on. The extra stories that the NFL puts out there, I don't invest in anymore. I can't put any realistic confidence in the media at all. I would have to, hear it from the source myself. And ultimately, yeah, that's just where we're at right now, because I have no confidence in the process right now. Too many, too many fingers in that pot trying to go ahead and get a piece of the pie, get a piece of that taxpayer pie, and they all want it to go into their little hands. So yeah, to me personally, something has to be done. I think that we need to go ahead and scrap the federal government altogether and reinstitute a anti-federalist type system with a marginalized, centralized government, and get rid of the income tax altogether. We don't even need. We'll send those 87. Like I said, we'll send those 87 IRS agents, those 87,000 IRS agents. Y'all want to go fight? Y'all want a war with Russia so bad? We'll send those 87,000 IRS agents, along with the media shills, along with all the State Department people, along with all the people that are bureaucrats over there pushing for this World War III type scenario. We'll send y'all over there to go fight the war, and the rest of us will take your jobs. How does that sound? Does that sound like because that sounds pretty good to me. I think we could get rid of a lot of problems. We could probably actually solve some of them, maybe. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. You people tell me what you think. You like. What's up, Will? Scott? Cabal? Sorry. You kind of came in a little bit late, but retired Cabal. But y'all people tell me what you think. You like, sub. Do the shit YouTube tells me to do to get over. And for now, I'm out.